Andrew's shaking his head. Hey there. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the Android Central Podcast. It is episode number 203 for Friday, September 19th, 2014. What's happening? I'm Phil Nickinson, little host of the show. Well, not that little. Host of this little show. Not as little as I'd like to be, I think. I'm working on it. I'm trying. Anyway. You know, somebody yelled at me for too much chit-chat before we actually start talking about Android. And Jerry, you know what that makes me want to do?
I have a very good idea what that makes you want to do, but
that makes me just want to talk about anything other than Android for, I don't know, the next 30, 40 seconds, I think. What do you got? Andrew Martinick in Seattle, what do you think?
I think that's a pretty good idea.
I'm okay with that. So let's talk about anything other than Android for the next 30 seconds. How about this? Phil Beard has disappeared, but I think it's coming back again.
Yeah, I don't know about disappeared. I'm seeing it a little bit there.
you can't fight that thing. You just give up. It's won.
It's my 4-year-old. She wouldn't kiss me for like 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't like it. And then I shaved it off, and she's like, Dad, where's your beard? Yeah, fine. Fine. The women in my life, I swear. What's going on with you guys? All right, then.
Nothing.
Good podcast. Thanks.
I'm trying to think of anything good that's going on, and I'm drawing a blank.
Absolutely, there's something good going on, and I can't believe nobody's noticed it yet. But I didn't lock the camera on anybody at the start of the show.
Well, it's still.
I just assume that that's just every show, and then 10 minutes in, we turn it off.
It is still early. All right, fine. We'll talk about Android now. So yes, we are kind of in a. I don't want to say a slow week because there are no slow weeks around here, but it's like we haven't had any huge new devices released this week. We did have the Note 4 go on pre-sale today, for what that's worth. It's kind of
still got a couple weeks before we're actually out, so.
Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. It's cool, but we got some things to talk about. Where do you guys want to start? I did make up a little bit of a script.
Open that.
Please do.
Well, so you didn't say that any big devices were released, but you could buy a Moto X on Tuesday.
Yes, actually, and you were able to buy a Moto X. I mean, we joked that Motorola was going to go down hard right at 11 o'clock Central, I guess, is my time. But I was able to get through. I mean, it was slow. It was struggling, but I was able to get one ordered, custom and all.
I got mine ordered, but
Yep.
it was not a very pleasant experience.
What color did you get?
I got a black leather with orange trim.
Black leather
front.
is what I still have here. And yes, we are still reviewing it. I'm getting there. I'm going to get it done next week. So it's funny. I mean, for the most part, you know what you're getting here, I think. It's, you know, your experience of the Moto X for the past year is not largely changed with what you have with this device. You know, it's still, we still call it stock. It's stock-ish Android, right? It's a, you know, pretty bare bones experience with this little bit of added stuff in there. Seriously, both of you have headphones in? How do I hear myself?
I definitely have headphones in.
Weird.
Yeah. You have the tab open somewhere and you're on a 20-second delay.
Which one of you has a leaky head? Jerry doesn't have headphones in.
No, I don't have headphones.
That's what it is. Jerry has a leaky head.
Maybe.
It's kind of gross. Yeah, I mean, it's a stock Android experience with this extra stuff. And then everything else that's kind of different to me is, you know, better camera, which, depending on how you look at it...
It's hard to get any worse.
Well, there's that. I was trying to be positive about it. You know me. It's a better camera. It's still not a great camera, right? You're still going to get a much better camera in other phones. But, I mean, you guys have seen the sample shots I've been taking. I mean, sample, whatever. I'm taking pictures of things. And some of them look really good. Don't zoom in too much. Jerry, can you explain that? Because I sent something to you the other night, and I was like, look, you know, there's a lot of this camera that kind of reminds me of the M8 a little bit. Like, it can do some things really well, but as soon as you start zooming in, you start seeing these limitations, which seems odd for what, on paper, is a 13-megapixel camera.
It's all software. We're going to assume that the sensor is good. Everybody's telling me it's the same sensor as the Galaxy or the LG G3. You know, I haven't taken either apart and checked, but going on that. so we can assume that the electronics are good. But when you tell it to take a picture, all it really does is just capture everything it sees in points of light. It assigns a value to that, and then software takes those values and manipulates them and turns them into a picture. That software can have a really big effect on what the final outcome is like. You sent one the other day that just would have been a great picture had the clouds not lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
It just turned into a big gray soup up there. All that information was there, and the software just didn't put it together in a pleasing way. That's the kind of stuff that can be fixed, but it's also the kind of stuff that it costs a lot of money. You have to license that technology from the people who've created it. And I'm not going to say, oh, they'll fix that in a software update, because if they wanted to spend that kind of money on camera software, they would have done it from the beginning.
Yeah, you've got to buy it for what it is now.
Right. It's everything you've shown me. It's not the G3's camera.
Right.
It's definitely not the iPhone's camera, old or new. But if you're posting pictures to Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter and that's all you want it for, dude, it's going to be fine. And, and for that matter, even the original Moto X was good enough. This is going to be a big step up. If you want to capture just that perfect moment and set up the light and everything, maybe you ought to be using a little bit better camera than the one on a smartphone if that's what you're looking for. But in any case, this is probably not the phone that's going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten some. You saw that one. I can't remember if I put it on Google Plus or not. I might have. Of my kid in Barnes & Noble sticking her head out of some little thing the kids stick their heads through.
It was a great picture.
It was a great picture. Like, don't zoom in on it too much or you really start seeing what's wrong with it. But just looking there at the screen, beautiful picture. Now, some of that's a subject matter, and I get that I'm a little biased and I want it to be good.
No, I mean, and a lot of it is the way you took the picture, the way you framed it, and the the background and stuff. But that, until you cropped in really close, that was a really good picture. For a smartphone camera, that was an excellent picture. So I don't know why it gets it right sometimes, and other times it just doesn't.
That's kind of how I feel about it. It's funny because I'm sitting here using it, and we talked some last week, and admittedly got sort of apologetic for this phone, I think.
I know you all made me want to cry a little bit inside.
But I keep asking myself, well, what's special about this phone now? And as I'm starting to write the review, I keep saying, all right, what's special about this phone? Because before it was the size. For me, that was a lot of it. You had this, again, here they are side by side, 4.7-inch phone that felt really good in the hand. I'll even hold it right side up, and had this cool little dimple on the back, and the dimple has become this crater or this pock mark on the back of the phone. And I think the design lost a lot of what was special about it. Meanwhile, you have the software, and I still think there's something really special in the software that Motorola's done. Whether it's the additions or whether it's the fact that they're able to get these updates in there faster than anybody. That, and maybe that's the reason to buy this phone now. Maybe this is now better than, I don't have a Nexus sitting here. I think it's at home. I think maybe these Moto X phones are more important than Nexus devices now.
This is all just off the record, people just talking.
Nobody's listening. It's just us talking.
The actual goal for some of the engineers at Motorola is for the new Moto X to get Android L before the Nexus 5. They want a repeat of last year so they can have that first Easter egg in there. When you've got guys that want that, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't be able to. But if that's what they want, they're working hard to give you the best they can as fast as they can.
Hey, by the way, I just accidentally stuck the camera on you.
I saw that.
Look, you're clicking around, and I forget why I clicked on Jerry, or I can click on Andrew, and then I forget to click off. That's what happens. Sorry. This stuff ain't easy, man. There's so many toys in this in Hangouts now that I just can't.
Doesn't help that it's different every 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to run a podcast and play with all these toys, and the Q&A is still over here. So yes, we're gonna get to you guys in a minute. Where's the applause stuff? I can't actually hear the applause, right? That's a good thing, I think. I think it's turned on.
I think it just needs 3 or 4 more buttons for you to
I know, right?
Google Effects.
I need my own Jason Howell. I need somebody sitting behind a big board running things. Don't be adding effects now.
Oh dear,
All
this
of a
is.
sudden, we're just gonna have. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how I'll do Phil Beard now. It'll be that.
I'm
weird,
clicking away fast. I'm gonna ruin things.
It'll be that weird cartoon beard. So it was about $600, I think. I bought the Pure Edition.
Because you're smart.
If you didn't see
Yeah.
it, I did just a tongue-in-cheek. Here are 8 reasons to not buy a carrier version of the Moto X, because it's got all the crapware on it, all these AT&T apps. I mean, look, I'm glad. I forget which maps company AT&T is paired up with, and I know the company. They're good people there. I've never.
Navtec?
Yeah, I think so. I just don't remember. I've never used it, not once. I don't want to use AT&T's contacts. I don't want to use AT&T Mail. You know, now that Hangouts, and we'll talk about Hangouts in a minute. Now that Hangouts is doing what it's doing, I don't need another messenger app. It's just this crap that's there and holds up updates, and just no, I'm done with it. So I think that's one of the most important things we've seen in the past couple of years is Motorola and HTC. Has anyone else done it? Nexus devices, you know, just anything you can buy outside of the normal carrier channels as a unlocked version or a developer version. Super important. I really want to see LG do that. I would love to see Samsung do more of that.
Yeah, Samsung's only done a developer edition of the Verizon ones, I think.
Or and I'm not even talking like Google Play Edition. I mean, there's a lot of built-in stuff to these phones. That
Just an unlocked one.
I want a Note 4 Pure Edition. Period. I don't live in England. I could room up with Alex, I guess, but I don't have any way to get one that's not from AT&T or T-Mobile unless I order it through the mail with possibly no warranty and pay extra.
And it's $800 and something, and the bands might not work out for you. And
Right. That's a bunch of crap. Just sell me one direct from Samsung.com, and I'll buy it.
Well, and look at what Samsung's done with region locking too. They really are trying to, add it. It's an added cost when you import it as well now, because now somebody's got to region unlock it before they send it to you.
And even then, it's still just not 100%.
And it's never made sense either. I mean, it's such a small number of people, and it's such a minimal expense for them to just put up the online store and just have unlocked Galaxy S5. Here you go.
I've got a German GS3, and I can use it. It works, but there's just a little bit about it that's not quite 100% there.
Oh yeah, I've got the UK M8 here, and no LTE because it's just the bands don't line up right, and it just does things a little bit differently. It'd be nice if HTC has been one of the ones that actually has done things properly, and you can go buy the US unlocked one.
And it goes back to something Jerry used to say a long time ago when Verizon would occasionally get Samsung developer editions.
Mm-hmm.
And, meanwhile they would take so long to get out. Everyone says, "Oh, I'm just going to root my phone anyway." And Jerry would sit back there and be like, "I get it, I understand, but this is why we can't have nice things."
Yep.
Right.
They're not going to make them if you give them. If nobody buys them, they're not going to continue to make them.
I kind of feel not responsible, but beholden a little bit, I think, to buy these pure editions or unlocked, versions or whatever.
And Motorola's kind of positioning it as a real selling point too. They're saying, "Hey, this is what this is going to get you. You're going to get software updates first. It's going to be exactly how we want it to be before the carriers put anything on it." And they're actually saying, this is a viable option, not this is in some back area of the website that's separate from all the carrier devices.
They're not. They don't have the Nickinson snark level to actually show a picture of all the AT&T stuff in your app drawer. But yeah, like Andrew said, they're basically telling you this is superior. We're glad to be able to sell it to you. This is probably what you want to buy if you're going to pay full price.
Yeah.
And I can't agree more.
$600 is not cheap. I get that. I absolutely get that.
It was like $60 cheaper than my developer edition last year. That was interesting.
And I'm sure prices will come down.
Yeah.
Just like they always do.
Well, you only had to pay $25 extra out of the fancy leatherback too.
I was just looking. There's been a little bit of weirdness with the Moto X this week. I know there was that reply from the Motorola Twitter account telling somebody that nope, there's not going to be a Sprint version. Checking on it. I don't know.
Seems
I want something
crazy.
I want something more official than a Twitter reply for a couple of reasons. One, the initial specs that were sent out by Motorola, and I'm looking at them right here on my computer, that were given to us at the event, pretty clearly showed it was the 1092 version, right? These all have little model numbers. 1092 was very, clearly a Sprint version. It went through the FCC testing, and so I just pulled up Motorola's website right now. So they have listed the Moto X Pure Edition, which is GSM unlocked with a T-Mobile SIM. They have the AT&T version, which the bands are they exactly the same? No, AT&T has extra bands in it for LTE. Has 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 17. The Pure Edition only has 2, 4, and 17. And then there is still a Verizon version listed, which is actually good to note because for a while, let me see if it's still disappeared from
the Verizon one was there on day one, and then a couple hours later it was gone.
Right, and I'm looking right now and I still don't see it there, but it is still listed under the specs at Motorola.com. So,
yeah, if their press materials at Sprint, Spark, and CDMA, there's only one network that phone's going to work on.
Right. So, I mean, the question is that just a weird thing because Sprint has not officially announced that it's going to have it yet? Was that what that Twitter account was just trying to say, and it said it badly? Or, in fact, will Sprint never get the new Moto X? I don't know. I want something.
That seems like a stretch that they would never get it. I mean, this is still getting really weird. There's no official AT&T exclusivity, but right now you can only buy the Pure Edition or the AT&T one. So Verizon people know that it's coming, but we have pictures of the Verizon ones. We have held the phones working on Verizon. It's really weird that there's no paid exclusivity, but Verizon and AT&T seem to be at the front running. They made a Sprint model, but it just doesn't exist, and there's apparently no. I mean, we have no word on a T-Mobile specific model, right? I mean, it's just they're selling the Pure Edition with T-Mobile SIM in it, which is kind of like last year.
Yeah, I think what they did is they took the developer edition and the US GSM unlocked for T-Mobile and just rolled them up into one phone. Right. They're calling it the Pure Edition now.
Right. So, there's no indication that you'll be able to walk into a T-Mobile store and actually buy one with a T-Mobile stamp on the back.
No, and a couple of people have talked to T-Mobile reps on social media or over chat, and T-Mobile says, yes, it's going to be coming in stores. That's not official, guys. That's just...
Not saying it's wrong. It might even be correct. But it's one of those things where until they say it, until we see it, written down somewhere, we just can't officially say, all right, here's what's going on.
The same thing with the Band 12 issue. A lot of people are worried that come next year, if you don't have Band 12 on your phone, your LTE is not going to work. No, that ain't happening. I know John Laguerre said some things that made some people nervous, but if T-Mobile is going to stop support for the LTE network that's on your phone right now, there's going to be a big press release, and everybody's going to know. We can't just take the little tidbits we hear and call them gospel truth.
Wasn't I talking you off the ledge a little bit about that?
I understand why everybody's upset.
Yeah. Look, see, John Ledger says something that sounds like, oh yeah, we're shutting off what, and it's like, no. Look how long it took. What was it? TDMA?
Yeah.
Look how long it took for that to shut down.
Perfect.
Look how long it took Sprint to shut down IDEN.
Yeah.
And weren't we supposed to have no more 2G on T-Mobile by now and LTE everywhere? You can't take these off-the-cuff comments these guys say and think that it's absolute truth. It's true. T-Mobile wants to transition to more Band 12 in their LTE. That's absolutely true, and there are a number of reasons why they'd want to do that, but that doesn't mean your phone's going to stop working the day they flip some magic switch and the whole network reboots. That's not going to be that.
And they still have devices on the shelves right now that they're selling in hundreds of thousands that don't have Band 12.
Right.
And so there's no way, they can't just flip a switch. Well, first of all, they can't just flip the switch and turn it all off all at once. But again, they have minimum service lengths and on all of these phones, and they don't want to have to deal with forced phone trade-ins and getting in trouble with consumer protection agencies and things like that. It's just not going to happen.
We talk about the big ship turning, and that's there. There's none bigger than a carrier changing something like that.
Right. The carriers all have, and they're talking to manufacturers about what supported bands they need. They all have a cutoff point where they say, after this point, we need to have all phones have these bands, and the Moto X is underneath that.
And carriers aren't dumb. I mean, if they sell you a phone tomorrow and give you a 2-year contract, they're going to support that phone for 2 years because they don't want to give you any money back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's do some quick Q&A on Moto X. Quiet you.
Sure.
Sorry, I just lit up the phone over there. I didn't even say, okay, Moto X. Oh, now it's not going to work that time. Ryan Saldana wants to know, Jerry, Moto X first gen or Moto X second gen?
I bought a fresh first gen Moto X not too long ago, just in case. But I did buy the new one. Whichever one I don't like, my wife is going to be more than happy to have. But we talked last week about why would you want the Moto X over the G3 if it's not small and nice size for your hands anymore? And I agreed with that until I was in the car again and I said, okay, Google, now show me, how to get to Target in Ranson, West Virginia. It's a place I don't go to very often. And it just did it. I didn't have to push any buttons, turn any screens on. All right, that's why. That's why I want the Moto X again. Touchless control. I'm going to use it. One or the other. I can't tell you which one yet until I have that big one in my pocket for a week.
And this leads into the next question, as soon as I find where it went again, from John Paul. Moto Hint.
Dude, that could be huge.
Yeah, he wants to know, when are we going to get a review? It's funny, for as long as we were at Motorola, we didn't have a whole lot of time to work after it before we were, before embargoes are lifting and we're back on planes.
And they honestly didn't talk about it all that much either.
Yeah, it's...
I bet there's not a lot to say until about the middle of October.
Well, no, that's only part of it, because it's a Bluetooth headset that really just works along with all this voice stuff.
And it also, it just does really cool, it works along with the new Moto X, which up till that point didn't exist, to bring it to its full potential. But also the Moto Hint does cool, directional listening and, smart power saving when you put it in your ear and take it out, and kind of cool little things. But in the scope of a new Moto X and Moto G, it wasn't worth spending, from their standpoint, spending an hour telling you about the Moto Hint.
Yeah, they showed it to us, they demoed it for us, but it's not, I don't think it's this transformative thing. It's a really cool Bluetooth headset, and I got one, and I totally want to try it. But, yeah, it's a Bluetooth headset.
The thing is, though, is I haven't seen anything official that I can't already do with any other Bluetooth headset as with voice actions.
And I'm not entirely sure how much you can do with it with other phones. That's kind of the biggest thing I want to try with it.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, when you connect it to another phone, my understanding is it's just a Bluetooth headset when you connect it to another phone. And if you just go get a random Plantronics headset or something connected to your new Moto X, you can still do all the voice controls, just as we did with the last generation. Right. And your car stereo or whatever, you could, it's just an input, a mic input. So the Moto Hint, trying to make it worth $150 is, its size, its, directional listening and noise canceling and, the cool case and all that stuff. And
that was a question Adam had in the Q&A. Cedric wants to know, I'm considering buying a Moto X. Will I be happy with the camera coming from a Nexus 4?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. As somebody who went back nostalgia-wise and used the Nexus 4 for a little while, God, that camera's terrible.
Ryan wants to know, is it expensive for OEMs, for manufacturers, to add wireless charging to phones? After having the Nexus 5, it would be tough for me to imagine going back to plugging in every night. It seems surprising to me to see a flagship like the Moto X released without it in 2014. Two kinds of currency to think of when it comes to phones, right? It costs money to build these things, but there's also physical, currency as far as space within these, within these phones. You only have so much space here to do things, and so many ways you can do things. And if you put one thing in, that means you're not going to be able to do something else, or you're going to have to do something differently, or it's going to change the radios. And Now, you've got antennas running along the outside in the metal here, so maybe that, that's different. But whatever, everything's a trade-off with these things. So you have the cost of actually doing it, the monetary cost, and then you have the engineering cost, I'll call it.
I got a little bit of information on that. Not too long ago, somebody wrote a really nice article about how the carriers didn't want to spend the money. And I was talking with somebody about it who works in that industry. And he said that's 80% of it, but there's a part that nobody wants to talk about, and that is, and he used LG for an example. I'm not picking on LG. Wireless charging isn't included by default on the phones that Verizon and AT&T. We're going to leave AT&T out of this discussion altogether. Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, because the people at Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint know how much extra cost is actually in the phone, and LG wants to triple that and make way too much money. Whereas, and they can't reach an agreement, so they decide to not have it in there. LG knows that Phil and Andrew and Jerry and everybody listening will bite the bullet and get price gouged and buy that fancy back that costs $40 more than it should because we want wireless charging. So LG doesn't care. They're going to get their money from the people that want it either way. The only thing the carriers miss out on is the chargers themselves and accessories, and now they carry them in the store anyway. So LG is happy, the carriers are happy with the current situation, and we're the ones paying extra to get it.
I don't disagree. I would love to have wireless charging in it. And part of it is I've just gotten used to swapping back and forth, but I love the idea of wireless charging. I use it on the Nexus 7 every night, sitting next to my bed, but it is what it is. But yeah, and that's, Jerry's talking about the monetary currency there. So, all right, let's take a quick break, and then we will launch into some Moto 360. How about that?
Sure thing.
Feels breaking. Spin around on your head.
This is me taking a quick break. Whee! All right. All right, should we talk some Moto 360 a little bit?
Do it.
Now that I got my review out the door, finally.
Good job on that.
Thanks. I mean, it was an easy write.
Usually when you're done with a review, your Hangout starts beeping and Jerry's saying, Phil, I disagree. Phil, I disagree. Not this time. I can't. There's nothing there that I don't 100% agree with.
I wanted to take my time with it to really make sure we got the battery stuff right and to give you some time to use it, and I wanted to get your experiences because I think battery is probably the most important thing with these watches, and no, it's not going to last a long time, but neither was it anywhere near as bad as you heard in those day one reviews, and that's what those were, guys.
Yep.
So it's, most nights I'm ending up around 20%, I think. Like when I'm done and ready to go to bed. If I'm going to go out at night, I'm probably going to try to charge this thing before I leave.
You and I are seeing just about the same thing, and that makes sense. Our email and Hangouts are going off almost in tandem.
Yeah, that's true.
So our battery life should be fairly the same, other than your screen is a little bit brighter a few hours of the day because you see sun, where I lock myself in the dark.
That's the big, and I think that's the other big difference. If you're outside a lot with this thing and it's really firing off that screen, which is a good thing because you can actually see it outside.
Yeah.
It's going to kill the battery a lot quicker. I think that's a huge difference.
I don't know if that's screen tech or the backlight or what, but it's you take the G Watch or the Gear Live and turn it up as bright as it goes, and then hold the 360 next to it. It's like there should be a little man there laughing because it's so much brighter.
Now, that said, the G Watch will laugh when it's still working.
Right.
After 20 hours.
Yeah.
That's just the trade-off with these. At some point, I bet we will get some version of this that lasts longer. Not yet. It's just the way it is.
There is a reason that these manufacturers do the things they do. I am sure that there are reasons that the processor that is used is being used. Could be money, could be something else. I'm sure there's reasons that they don't have a more expensive, larger capacity battery made by LG Chem that fits in more little tight nooks and crannies. I don't know those reasons, but somebody at Motorola does, and there will be a version 2 of this watch, and if that's what you want to wait for, nobody's going to blame you.
Yeah, I need to go back and see. Maybe Andrew has better pictures. I wonder whose battery they are using in there because
They have a piece of white tape around it. I looked at
Oh, did
about
they?
100 pictures. Yeah.
Including the ones we got.
Yep.
Because they have used LG batteries before in at least the original Moto X, probably in this one as well, and the new one as well. Yeah, so that was an interesting question. It's still, I think, my favorite. Absolutely, my favorite watch just to look at. I put my Pebble Steel strap on it this week after a bunch of people on Google Plus suggested it, and it works really well. Not 100% perfect, especially can you see the gap there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you see that on your wrist?
Yeah, actually, I see it on I'll call it the inboard wrist.
Oh, that would drive me batty. I'm glad I saw that.
Yeah, so no, I definitely see it there, which probably means you see it on the other side, I would imagine. So, but while we're waiting for the official ones, I'll take it.
Yep.
What else? What else?
Speaking of the straps, we're going to jump to the Q&A. I'm
Sure.
sorry, but Brian wants to know how the leather is holding up on the back of your Moto X, and I thought he said 360, so I just shouldn't even be here. Don't let me have control of anything ever again.
It's the same leather though, so it's a fair question.
Yeah, actually, it is.
We'll get to that one, Brian. I promise. We're going to talk about the watch, but I'll make sure we answer it.
No, I'll answer now. Where did I put the phone?
Okay.
I had the phone somewhere. Where did I put it? Okay, Moto X. Oh, there it is. Too many phones. So this one was actually kind of interesting. When I first got it, it looked like it'd been worn a little bit. And I have a feeling, they've had these phones around for a while, and I have a feeling somebody else might have been using this for a little bit. Because it almost looks like I had little ripples going on up here, where it wasn't quite.
Well, we'll have to see when the production ones arrive.
Right.
How much they get worked in when they're being put together.
Yeah, it looks like leather that's been around a little bit. Not horrible yet.
See, I'm gonna bite the bullet for everybody. I'm not gonna worry about trying to protect it.
No, neither am I. I'm gonna treat it like I treat any other phone. I've got. Can you see the AT&T logo?
Yeah.
It's not just printed on there, so it's actually embossed in the leather. So we'll see how that holds up.
I'm gonna rub a little bit of saddle soap into it, like I would anything else that's leather. Then let it get wet. Let it get bumped and scratched. I like the look of worn leather if it wears well. So I'm not necessarily worried that I'm definitely going to be ruining it, but we'll have to see how it holds up if you treat it like a jacket or a pair of shoes or a belt. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use it, wear it.
See, I'm flipping through the Q&A. Yeah, I'm still kind of waiting. I mean, back to the Moto 360. Android Wear is still Android Wear. I'm really waiting to see what happens with watch faces and the API for that. That's probably the biggest thing. The Moto 360 and the G-Watch R, the time that Andrew and I got to see it, both of them have such better watch faces than the original G-Watch or the Gear Live.
Yeah, the G-Watch pretty much has 2, maybe 3 to choose from that aren't just totally garish.
Well, the G-Watch just has what's in the SDK. It's definitely the reference device in all things.
Yeah. But no, you can absolutely get better watch faces with this. I've stayed away from the third-party watch faces, and I was talking to Adam Zeiss from Connectedly this morning. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've been using these third-party watch faces. My battery life just sucks." I was like, well, I mean, it's these, they're basically running like full apps, right?
Yep. And
Google flat out said, "Don't do it. It's not how don't we recommend you don't do it." And everyone's like, "Yes, watch faces." And so I've stayed away from it.
I've tried a couple, and we'll have to agree that, especially on the 360, that's just the people that make wireless chargers must love those watch faces because it just kills your battery. They look good though. I don't know why Google hasn't released an API for that yet. You would think that would be at the very top of their list, even though it's shallow and not very nerdy or geeky or cool. Everyone wants their watch to look good. That's what I would have pushed first.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Boyle asks, any inside knowledge on why Motorola used an old processor on the Moto 360?
No, they didn't.
Knowledge? No. It's not an off-the-shelf chip.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back there. I still have to wonder how much power you need to push this few pixels, right? And when you say 2 years old, what does that mean to me? I don't make chips for a living, but I can't imagine that something that's 2 years old can't run this reasonably well. I have to think that the animations, it's something else going on. It's not just sheer processing power.
Oh, I know if they plan when all these APIs open up and these companies can make their watches do a little bit more. You know, Motorola may have something planned. They may do something that they needed that chip for. It's a whole lot cheaper to custom the system on chip for an OMAP than it is an S400. That's just common sense. OMAP's a lot more open, been around forever. Everybody's already done everything with it. I'm not saying they're gonna, but they could. All I know is if you put it on the debugger, it does not tell you that it's just an off-the-shelf OMAP 3. So they've done something there.
Yeah, I mean, there's something weird about it. I don't disagree. There's absolutely this, I hate to say lag, because that word just isn't very descriptive, but there is some stuttering in the animations. And then I also hate to say that, hey, software fixes could fix everything. I don't know if they will. On the other hand, this is also the most expensive Android Wear smartwatch we have so far. How much more are you willing to pay for it?
And because it's the most expensive, I still, part of me thinks if they just wanted to use an off-the-shelf part and not have any future plans that may or may not ever happen, but they still could have the plans, they just would have stuck the Snapdragon in it. Probably not that much more expensive to source.
And
I have no idea.
Go back to what Russell wrote last week, and he would love to see a $350 Moto 360 with just everything better. He would gladly pay that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anybody else would, except for us. I'm with Russell.
I think there's a bit of a some growing pains we have to get used to, Jerry. I mean, talking to Kevin about it, if you saw John Gruber daring Fireball making fun of my use of the word hefty for an $80 watch band for these things, and I think I disagree with him calling me adorable, even though I am.
But I mean, when you're coming from the standpoint of it's already $250,
right?
That's a third of the price again on another band, and for people aren't used to that. People aren't used to buying a $200 phone on contract and then paying $80 for a case for it.
Right.
That's not a normal activity, and that's kind of, I'm just making the accessory analogy there. People aren't used to that. They want to buy the watch. They're coming at it from a consumer electronic standpoint and not a watch standpoint.
But now we also, this is a new world for a lot of us. $80 for a watch band isn't expensive at all, guys. The one that I really want. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. From a watch perspective, it's not. People aren't looking at these as watches because they don't normally buy watches, and if they do, they buy a $100 watch and they don't put another $80 band on it. They buy the $100 watch and wear it into the ground and then throw it out and get a new one.
I mean, I've got my eyes on a band that's $1,100. I'll never be able to get it, but I'm allowed to look. Damn it! But
I look at it from the standpoint of I don't eat steak every night off a new piece of china.
Yeah.
To me, $80 on top of $250, it's a different thing, and that's not to say that one is necessarily better or worse than the other, right? There's a reason they sell watches at Target because people buy them.
Just wait for that Apple Watch edition. It's going to be like $1,300.
Yeah, and that's Kevin and Renee and myself were talking about it the other day. I mean, there's
when and if Android Wear gets popular enough that there are 20, 30 models to choose from, there's also going to be, you go to Five Below or Amazon and you're going to be able to buy a band that looks good for $15. Right now, there's no incentive for some of these companies from overseas to make a band that looks good for $15 because they don't make a lot of money per item.
We'll see. It'll shake out, I think, somehow. And there's a place for both. There's absolutely a place for these high-end bands that look and feel way better than this one, but don't necessarily look and feel that much better. Yeah. Why can't you have both?
I'm pleased with the strap that Motorola sent. that leather one. It's a really nice. If you're a watch guy, and you like leather bands, you're gonna love this band. It's very nicely done, and the leather is treated. I don't know how they do it, but it's right. You wear it in the shower for a couple days, and it's soft, it's creased where you want it to be, and it's got that right round shape. It's wonderful.
It's nice. I could easily go back to it and take the. I like the metal better. I think it just feels a little better, especially here where it's humid all the time. But yeah, I would still very much recommend this watch. I think to anybody at this point, I would like it to be better, and I would probably pay a little more for it.
Now, see, that's where you and I are slightly parting ways. I would not recommend anybody run out and buy this watch right now.
Sorry, let me rephrase. I would not recommend this as something you need to buy. In fact, I still very much tell people, no, you don't need to buy one of these yet. If you have the money to burn and you think it's cool as hell, then do it.
I say you should wait. We need to know what Asus is going to do and what LG is going to do, and that's two other watches that are going to appeal to a lot of the people who like this look and style.
Yep.
And all I can go by is Richard, and we all know how much Richard loves that Zen watch. That made me. I need to touch it before I would tell somebody to spend their own hard-earned dollars on one over the other. And hopefully that'll be very soon, because I hate telling people to wait, because that's never a good idea to wait.
Yeah. Well, and HTC, right?
Well, when HTC makes one, it's going to be gorgeous. We're all going to love it, but then there's going to be something about it that everyone just hates.
Yeah.
That just worries me to death, and makes me excited. I'd love to see what they can do with an aluminum textured, extruded build watch that feels like the back of the M7. Make it for me. Do it.
I bet it'll happen at some point.
I hope.
Any more Q&A on that we want to see?
Looking.
Has anyone used the Moto X turbocharger yet? Any review on it? No, not yet. Hadn't shipped yet.
It'll charge your phone quickly.
It'll charge your phone partially quickly, and quite possibly melt your house. I don't know that. I'm still curious how any of that's being done, because no one's really saying.
I mean, the most interesting thing is, it sounds cool and all. I don't know. I take my S5 and I put it on a tablet, 2.5 amp charger, and it charges pretty damn fast already. I walk back over to it in 20 minutes and it's almost done charging when I think it should be at 30% or something. So how much faster can you get within the limitations of home circuitry?
The charging parts, the battery, the transistors, there's a little logic board that actually controls all this on your phone. Can accept so much input, voltage and amperage at a time. If you go above that threshold, it's going to blow. Like any other electronic piece of equipment, it'll pop. Right where your connector connects to any electronic device, there's a separate little circuit that has a shunt, and it reads what's coming in. If it's too high, that little shunt, it's a diode, it's supposed to trip, and the electricity doesn't make it into the phone, it just flows right back. Electricity is like water, a closed loop. It has to come out
the back.
Yeah, and it shunts it, so it should never reach the electronics in the phone. That you're depending on an electromechanical part that could fail. I am worried about these super high output chargers, because while the numbers are going to be very, very small, some of them are going to catch fire. It's good.
It looks just like the HP Chromebook 11.
Yep,
they try to do huge voltage and amperage on a USB charger, and laptops caught on fire.
And if it happens to me, or I think any of us here, we know, don't panic, just unplug it. We've all blown up electronic stuff. That happens. But what if it's somebody who doesn't know what to do, and they just sit there and freak out and watch it burn, and it burns part of their house down?
You heard it here. You hear it here first, folks. Terry said it. We're all gonna die.
No, I don't. I don't think that it could cause enough of a problem to actually catch your house on fire. But I can see your phone being all black and charred and swelled up and popped open, and if you were holding that, or like that poor girl that was dumb enough to stick a phone under her pillow and charge it, a case like that, you could hurt yourself, and I don't like to see anybody hurt themselves. Oh.
And I'm failing to see the draw of, needing to, in 15 minutes, hit your battery 45% or something, when current chargers are already pretty darn fast.
I'll tell you the draw. If I was at the National Archives not too long ago in Washington, D.C., and there's no cell service in there. I don't know if they purposely cut it, but there's none. You walk in there, and AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, doesn't matter. Everything just goes stinking dead. If you want to use your phone to take pictures and you carry it around, an hour and a half later, all 3 phones that you brought are dead, and you want to take a picture, you want a quick way to charge the phone.
Well, so you walk around with a wall charger? I mean, you walk around, you get one of these, whatever, I have 5 million of these, battery charger.
But if there was one that would charge my phone in 15 minutes, yes, I'd walk around with it.
Well, Motorola is talking about getting 8 hours of talk time in 15 minutes.
Right.
So we don't actually know how much, but this quick charger isn't going to bring you 0 to 80% or something in 15 minutes. And I mean, I don't know. I just look at the Galaxy S5 with its bundled charger and its USB 3 cable as an example. That charges ridiculously fast already.
You just hate everything, don't you?
Well, I hate having chargers in the first place. That's why I have 2 Qi chargers on my desk and one on my nightstand, because I just don't like plugging things in the first place. But if I'm going to, I know they're already pretty fast.
This is something new, and we shouldn't expect, and I hate to call this first gen, Qualcomm Quick Charge Spec has been around forever, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. But this is the first time we see any manufacturer make a big deal about having a quick charger. We shouldn't expect this first time to be perfect, and I think there's going to be problems, and I hope I'm wrong, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
I mean, I understand Motorola wants to sell you another charger. So it comes with a charger in the box, a really cool dual USB charger. But, they also came out with 2 battery packs that are $40 and $60 that they'd like to sell you too, along with this quick charger. So I understand that standpoint.
I'm winning one of those in this week's photo contest.
I'm waiting for it.
I want one of those.
We're giving away 2.
I can't bring myself to spend that much money on a little keychain battery pack. I don't know why.
I almost did, but then I stopped.
Because you're a rational human being.
Let's take one more quick break, and we will come back and do some more Q&A. What you say?
I say.
Trying to give myself like a few seconds of silence so I can find it in the waveform later when I'm editing. It's good radio, I know. All right, we're back again. We're going to close this out fairly soon. I got stuff to do. I got soccer practice to go to today. Let's just burn through some Q&A lightning round style. What you say?
I've got one to start off. Idle0095 says, what is the best Qi charging pad?
The one that fits your device.
I'm going to have to go with the old style Zen's charging pad is the nicest one I've ever used. Great big target on it, and it seems to actually shut down like it's supposed to when your device is charged.
You know what I still have? Hang on, let me see if I can get it behind me here so everybody can see it. I have this.
Oh my God!
I have this big giant Energizer thing. I call it the 2-banger. But you can put 2 things on it at once, and it lights up to tell you that it's charging, and it's just sitting back there.
Let's talk about Gen 1 right there.
Well, hey, it works.
I would build that into the dash of my car if I had that.
Absolutely. Now I'm gonna go put it back.
I like the old LG hockey puck one because it'll take anything. You can balance a tablet or a phone or anything on it, and it's got a USB port on the back, so you can just plug it in to any USB charger you have. So, like for the one on my nightstand, I had the outlets really far away, so I had to use a separate USB cable. And if you use one of the like the Nokia ones that were on sale for $5 or whatever, a couple weeks back, those have a proprietary charger and cable. And
my Zen's one does too. That kind of sucks.
And the LG ones are super cheap and they're rubbery, so they hold on to your phone. The Nokia ones are, they were $5, so I can't complain. But
Roberto says, I think it's odd that we seem to get a Nexus 9 and a Nexus 6 at the same time. As far as I know, Google never did that. Seeing as how we didn't get a hardware leak for the Nexus 6 until now, do you think we will really get a phone and a tablet sometime next month? I don't see why not. I mean, it's a phone and a tablet. And Jerry thinks yes.
I don't think it's going to be the Nexus 6, but will we see Google sell us a phone and a tablet? They're going to show us one next month. I'm 99% sure of it. Both.
Oh, this is one I wanted to talk about, actually. Tommy Nuno asks, thoughts on encryption being turned on by default in Android L? So right now it's an option. Jerry, back up and tell me what we're talking about when I can encrypt my device. How is that different than just putting a password on it?
It's file encryption. You cannot read the contents of what's saved on your internal storage unless you have supplied the credentials at login.
So like a secondary password for that stuff?
It can be the same password. There's lots of different ways to implement it, but it's unless you supply the right credentials and that authorizes a token for your applications to be able to read the data on your phone. The applications on your phone just have no access, none whatsoever, and that includes like ADB or the developer shell. Everything is like encryption on the hard drive on your computer through Windows or Mac OS. You can't get it unless you supply that key. You're just not gonna.
Apple turned it on by default in iOS 8, I think, or no, it's on the new iPhone 6, right? One or the other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ryan asks, is the rumored HTC Nexus 9 tablet the 64-bit Android L launch device?
Yes.
Alexander asks, will Google Wallet ditch the virtual MasterCard in favor of token payments like the way Apple Pay is handling purchases?
I hope not.
Said they are supporting tokens soon. That's a good question. I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any movement on that front.
I like having that little Google card that I can just throw in my wallet, and let's say I've got a phone.
Go ahead.
Mine's still sitting here, unused.
So I think there's a bit of confusion around the way Google Wallet works because it doesn't necessarily have to work as a virtual MasterCard. I mean, you can choose to have it set up. I mean, sure, it technically works in the background as pulling from your bank account into this card and then using it, but it's seamless to you. You just tap and it pays, and then it comes out of your bank account. So the fact that they use it as a virtual card doesn't really make a difference. That just helps them get around the secure element problem.
Which is a big problem.
So I mean, okay, they could have a virtual any card. I mean, I don't care what the middle step looks like. I just care that when I tap on the terminal, it pays for the thing, and then I look at my bank account and it took the money out.
Yeah.
I hope they don't get rid of the physical card, because I can't think of any time other than buying a soda that I've ever used the phone. But I used the card yesterday.
I've still never used mine.
Just like a payment card.
Ben says, I read rumors that Android L will include Wi-Fi calling. Will that work with all carriers, or will they still need to add their own version? I don't think I'd seen that rumor, but that sounds like one of those things that the carriers are not going to
play
with anything.
It's not going to be able to be a general thing anyways. I mean, it's going to have to be on a carrier-by-carrier basis.
Ryan asked, camera, Nexus 5 2013 or Moto X 2014? Ooh, we're going to have to do some side-by-sides on that. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that daylight, nice, good situations, the new Moto X is ahead there. And then the reverse is true with the Nexus 5.
Ryan Boyle says, There seems to be a lot of raving about the iPhone 6 camera being almost on par to a more professional standalone camera. Or any of the Android
that's bull.
Should we just stop him there?
Yeah, sorry, no.
We were actually just talking about this right before the podcast. Richard Devine is helping iMore out with iPhone stuff, and he was posting some pictures that look really good, especially the low light ones. But Jerry is absolutely correct when he stopped me and said, "No, stop. It looks good for a cell phone camera," and he's right. He's absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing about that professional photographer that went to Iceland and took beautiful pictures of the Icelandic countryside with the iPhone 6.
He's going to get really good pictures no matter what he uses.
Right,
and
he could get that with a piece of unexposed film in a cardboard box.
How many good pictures did he miss by not having a real camera with him? That's what I think every time I see that.
There's no side by side of him with his 5D Mark III on the same tripod as the iPhone 6 and how it blows it away.
Yeah.
Roberto says, or asks, both. New camera APIs in Android L will eventually make smartphone cameras better. But will it make things easier for hardware manufacturers? Will they need to change how they customize software for their cameras? More expertise? I mean, you change one thing, you're going to have to change something else, right? APIs.
Who says the OEMs are... I'm sorry, Phil?
No, go ahead, and you're absolutely right. Who says they have to use those?
Right, or are going to, or will want to.
Yep.
I think the big problem there is how can Google enable you to use the new APIs with their camera that you download from Google Play with whatever special software the OEM has going on and special firmware on the chip.
We need to remember to get Alex to talk next week about this HTC Butterfly 2 he was using. Because it's got the duo camera stuff, but with a 13 megapixel sensor in it,
and not the same one that was in the Desire 816.
Yeah, so it's not like great stuff, but it's different. I don't know. We need to ask him more about it. AC's best Android phone to buy as of today. Has that changed for anybody? It's still tough, man. I tell you, in my top 4 or 5, I think you're perfectly fine buying any of them.
Yeah. I'm leaning more towards the new Moto X now.
Really?
After spending some short period of time with it, it's just a very nice phone.
I know where Jerry's leaning right now, actually.
No, you don't. If you come to me...
Did you say it the other day?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. I forget what I said the other day. The G3.
Oh, okay.
If you're just a normal smartphone user and ask me which phone to buy right now, which Android phone, I'm going to tell you to buy the G3. That may change in 3 weeks.
You could tell me Moto X. You could still tell me M8. You could tell me G3. You could tell me Note 4. You could tell me GS5. And I don't think I would argue against any of those.
Right. I think if you're an Android nerd, a purist, and love the Moto X 2013 right now, today is the best phone to buy.
We're going to have to pick. We're going to have to pick a number one, fairly soon here. And I tell you, as hard as it was a few months ago, I think it's about to be even harder.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Or easier. Well, we got stuff coming, and people are getting devices shipped. Maybe it's going to get easier.
Tilt View is the best. He's talking about G-Charger, says Andy. I don't.
Oh, that's the one that kind of stands it up, huh?
Yeah, that's what I use for my Nexus 7 at home next to the bed. I need to buy a couple more of those, actually. Michael, this is a different one. Gamergate, no details. I wanted to hear your guys' take on ethics in new tech journalism, especially with Phil coming from old media. I mean, if you haven't heard about Gamergate, go look it up. But my thing is the ethics don't change, depending on what platform you're writing for. Those ethics don't change. I think people's behavior is absolutely out of line with a lot of this stuff. I don't think there's some secret cadre of gaming journalists, trying to do things. I think marketing influences journalism like it always does, and it's something we have to look out for. And it's something I think I have these guys. Holy crap! I see Andrew twice down there.
The video call ended due to an unexpected error.
It's something that I use these guys for me as checks and balances, because I go on a lot of these trips and I see a lot of these companies and I see the people and I know the people and they're really nice people, and I think I'm not out of line to saying we're at least good acquaintances, if not out and out friendly. So I have these people around me who can say, no, Phil, you're wrong. You're getting
Well, you have people that relish saying that.
Yes, you absolutely do. and actually, it's a requirement for me. If I'm wrong, tell me.
Yep.
especially if I'm stupidly wrong, be sure to tell me, and don't let me off the hook. No, I don't think there's some secret society of balls and shaft, deciding what's being written about games. It's just these weird. I've gotten a few inside peeks to like car journalism, and that's a wholly separate thing than what we do here. I got to hang out with some av geeks, people who write about travel and airplanes and nerd out on that stuff like we nerd about phones. That's a different thing, and the marketing apparatus is different with that. I've seen government, I've seen the way that works, and it's in some respects it's the same, in some it's different. I think at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own actions and your own writing, and that's us as writers, and that's commenters as commenters. And I tell you, and I catch myself every day, I'm really going off on this now, but I catch myself every day about to post something, and I have to stop myself and say, why was that my first reaction? Why do I feel I have to post that and be so negative? I was sitting in line at Starbucks yesterday, waiting for 10 minutes for bad coffee, and about to post a picture bitching about it and how slow they are and how the coffee's not that good. It's like, do I really want that to be somebody's first reflection of me today? And if you do, fine. But I also think, taking a step back and taking a breath and just trying to be a little more positive about life is not exactly a bad thing right now. Holy crap, I've gone full hippie. That's what I feel about that. Good question. It's like Phil in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
I got Jerry on this side. I got my kids on this side, and they're both fighting.
Hey, now, I only ever give good advice. You should do everything I ever suggest. Trust me.
Andrew, here's one for you. Where'd you go?
Sure thing.
I just totally lost it. Motorola PowerPack Mini. Can you use it as a trusted Bluetooth device through the Bluetooth menu? Or
you can.
Motorola Connect?
You can. It shows up in Motorola Connect. You can actually look at where it is on a map, well, when it was last seen on a phone, and what the battery percentage is.
Yeah, we'll do, as soon as I get this review out of the way this week, we will do deeper dives into all that software stuff. Yes, Jerry?
I got a problem there, and I don't know how to fix it. Maybe you guys can help.
Okay.
All right.
My wife likes to put these big stupid things on her keychain, right? Big rubber parrots. I told her she can't do that because it will break the ignition.
Right.
I lied. That may have been true 20 years ago, but I lied so she doesn't do it because I hate using it when I drive her car. How do I convince her that I want this big square thing hanging on my keychain?
I think and you're not the only one to say that. My dad tells me that too, because he had a Mercedes way back in the day, like 20 years ago, that exact same thing happened. He had this big ball of keys hanging. I've got this thing, this what's it called?
Oh dear God!
The Key Smart. No, it's actually pretty cool because like it flattens out most of your keys into just that sort of package. Now I still have these giant honking car things hanging off the other end, but he's like, oh, you can't put that on there. It's gonna wreck your ignition. I'm like, dude, it's been 20 years. If that was really a thing, I think
It doesn't do that anymore, but I used that to lie to my wife.
Suck it up.
So I don't drive on any regular frequency at all. So my whole thing was that it just doesn't. The PowerPack Micro is so big that it doesn't fit. My keys don't fit in my pocket properly.
Yeah.
Dude, look at that thing Phil just showed you.
No,
the army shovel on his keys.
See, I don't have one of those either. Well, my keys are over on a hook. I don't have them here.
And it's not an issue.
I mean, it's just one more big thing that, I mean, it's larger than the big key fob for the car. It's larger than the key fob for a front door and garage door in an apartment building. It's actually quite big. I have mine clipped in my messenger bag because, I don't need the power pack with me all the time, but times in which I'm leaving the house long enough to bring a bag, I may need it.
I do want to get one, but I think I'm going to wait till the price goes down.
They're a little expensive for
40.
As small battery is.
Because you're talking about Bluetooth and it's got all this cool stuff in it, so that's why the price is a little higher. $40 though, still a bit high. But the whole thing about it is it's kind of nice. I'm going to have it in more situations where I don't need to carry on a 5,000 milliamp hour battery with me all the time. 1,500 is enough to boost my phone enough until I get home.
I just want black leather.
Did Motorola say why a hint wasn't in the goodie bag? with an XG and 360 for those who went to Chicago. First off, these are review units.
Yes, it's.
Let's not call it a goodie bag. No, they didn't actually. So I don't know why.
I mean, the ones they had a demo area, obviously, with everything, and they didn't even have them connected to phones in the demo area. So.
Well, I mean, that's not overly surprising for.
Well, except for everything else was connected and working just fine. I don't know. It wasn't. They weren't ready to show it yet.
Jeff asks, sorry if you already spoke of this, but the Pure Edition Moto X 2014 supposedly does not have band 12 on it for AT&T. Will this affect my LTE coverage at all?
For
It has nothing
AT&T,
to do
no.
with AT&T, no.
Yeah, band 12 is T-Mobile and Sprint. If you meant to say AT&T, nothing to worry about. If you meant to say T-Mobile, we talked about that a few minutes ago. They're not going to make your phone stop working anytime soon.
I wish nobody had ever talked about band 12. Let's see, we talked about the Moto X and Sprint. Don't know. Waiting to find out. Have you heard if anyone's gotten a shipping notice yet for the Moto X? No. I would expect that next week, I guess.
I check that thing twice a day.
They said September 26th. Is that right?
Yeah. For the people that got in right away at noon Eastern when it went live, it's the 26th. That shortly changed to like October something 4th. But I
checked mine earlier. It still says 26th.
And they're trying to. They're going to under-promise, over-deliver on that as much as possible. They're going to tell you October 3rd or whatever, and try to get it to you the Monday before.
Oh yeah, they're going to try to ship it out to you on the 26th, just like everybody else. If yours says October 4th.
I think somebody asked about. Oh, jeez, I missed the.
We're going to do this one first because I want to yell about it. What do you guys think of Android Silver as of right now? I'm waiting for 2015 to buy a new phone because of 64-bit. God, I love that Jerry made just enough noise to click over to his camera there, just for that. I'm waiting for 2015 to buy a new phone because of 64-bit, and I was relying on Silver rumors, but if I buy the new Nexus, will it be relevant by 2016? First, don't rely on rumors. Just don't. Second, again, nobody knows what Silver was beyond beyond one piece of paper, basically, that was, none of this is official. It was never official. The information had their sources this week who now say it's not going to be official. This sort of thing happens all the time.
A thing that wasn't going to happen has continued to not happen.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, nothing has changed.
Right. This isn't like something that they announced and then backpedaled on.
I saw somebody was like cursing because of this the other day. It's like, really? I mean, this unofficial thing that was never announced might not happen and hasn't been announced that it's not happening. So, what?
Right, and you're not going to expect. So it's something that Google has never talked about. So they're not going to come out someday and say, okay, Android Silver is not happening. It's like, no, they're not going to acknowledge it at all because a lot of things happen and then get killed before they ever.
Still go back to what Jerry is just sitting there waiting to say, and that's that everybody totally misunderstood what this might have been in the first place.
What we saw was internal stuff for one department at Google to talk to another department at Google, and maybe that was an internal project name or something. There was nothing ever ready for public view. This was nothing that concerns any of us.
Google's a large place. They have to pitch different departments on ideas. They have to pitch managers in different groups.
Anybody that works in any type of manufacturing or engineering right now, you know what it's like to walk into the purchasing agent's office and try to beg to get something for your desk to do something. Well, that's the same way at Google. These departments have to get approval. They can't just run out and spend billions of dollars. Though, wouldn't that be cool?
It sometimes seems like that, but that's not the case.
They're communicating and throwing, like Andrew said, it's sales pitches from one department to another. And that's more than likely what we saw if it was anything at all. It could have been some kid at home playing with Microsoft Word, just trolled us all.
Got to be real careful. People have a habit of running with things that they don't understand, and then next thing you know, it's a thing, even though it's not a thing. So.
Well, that's something you taught me a long time ago. Like, what is this? And then you have me explain, how do you know? You have me explain, why do I care? If I can't answer all three of those questions correctly, I have no business doing anything with it until I can. And, I'm not judging anybody, but that's how we operate.
I'm perfectly fine judging people who don't do things the way I think they should do it.
Well, that's your job. My job is to look pretty.
Oh, the one last thing we didn't talk about, and I meant to, was Hangouts and Google Voice and how it's working out for us. Jerry, how's it working out for you?
It's working good for me now.
Yeah.
There was some hiccups at the beginning, but I mean, I knew I was in the future when I got a transcribed voicemail on my desktop through Hangouts. It's like, holy mother of God.
You know what I ran into today, because I have 2 accounts tied into everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're using Gmail and stuff like that, it doesn't really care which account you're looking at, insofar as email addresses going. I guess I have so much overlap there, it's not a big deal. But like I was going to text Kevin Michalik this morning, and I have his phone number, I guess, on one account, but not on the other. And so, because I'm only using, I'm using my personal account with Hangouts, for those purposes, it didn't have that phone number on that account side. And so I had to go find it.
And the way that Google Apps have started to sort email addresses when you look at accounts, at least for me anyways, I have andrew.martinick at Android Central, and that one is above because it goes alphabetically from my personal email address. So, I'm so used to just switching accounts, hitting the top one, and all of a sudden I have no conversations, no people, nothing, and it's a little, I kind of wish that you could, say I'm never going to use my Android Central email address for, personal Hangouts on my Google Voice number. I wish that you could kind of say no, just get rid of that. But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say overall it's worked surprisingly well. And the integration between Google Voice and Hangouts conversations, if you happen to have switched at any point to texting from Hangouts, it's still a little funky. It will, remove your ability to send. So I have an 100% SMS conversation. It's still wonky on switching to Hangouts. You have to go start a new conversation and then it merges it. And the same, if you're doing a Hangout and you want to switch to Google Voice. So those are things that are going to be fixed. But other than that, I've turned on incoming calls in Google Voice over VoIP, and they work just fine. It's not quite as seamless as the regular phone system, but I plan on writing something about that after using it more. But I'm surprised with how well it went off, actually.
I know anybody else out there that's in the same situation, maybe you can give me a holler. I think this fixed my I'm dead stuck in iMessage with my phone number issue. I made the mistake of turning on an iPhone with my SIM card in it while iMessage was on, and then not reading what that thing was before I tapped it. And my number got trapped in iMessage. So what that means is when you pull your SIM card back and you put it in an Android phone, anybody with an iPhone that has you in their address list can no longer text you because it tries to send to iMessage and it gets stuck in Apple server and you have no way to see that iMessage. In my case, my Google Voice number was on the same contact card for everybody I know with an iPhone. So if they tried to text me, it saw my name and it automatically sent an iMessage and I would never get them. Now, for some reason, if somebody with an iMessage texts me and they enter in my Google Voice number, I get that message in Hangouts instead of it just sitting in some limbo. I don't know if that's something Apple changed. I don't know if I finally got lucky and got out of iMessage or if it came with the new Hangouts. So if you've seen something similar, give me a holler so I can try to figure out what's going on here.
Just got another email, and I really was about to end, but just got another email from somebody asking about the Pure Edition of Moto X. It says they finally updated the network bands and are reflecting that the AT&T model will have 4G LTE, while the Pure Edition will only have 2, 4, and 17. Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this last week, right? You have these specific, they call them SKUs, SKU. I forget what that stands for.
Stock Keeping Unit.
Thank you. The AT&T M8 is different than the unlocked. No, I'm sorry. The AT&T M8 and the unlocked M8 are the same SKU. The unlocked M8 or developer version, both actually, which I have. That is based off the AT&T SKU. Moto X, the unlocked Moto X from 2013 that I have, that's based off the T-Mobile SKU. So this is not a new thing, guys.
No.
It's just not.
Basically, in the States, the Pure Edition works for AT&T and T-Mobile. Nowhere else, the AT&T Edition works for AT&T in Europe. and that's it in a nutshell.
And Pure might not work 100% on AT&T.
I thought they said that it does.
We'll have to check. We'll go back.
I mean, I'm only going on on what they are saying.
Yeah.
I learned along with a beautiful woman named Miriam that you can't interject your own thoughts into this network stuff because they have nasty habits of writing incorrect information. So always quote what the manufacturer says. Always.
Yep. Yeah, so just look at the bands, and if they don't match up, I mean, my point is, it's not a new thing. It's not like suddenly happening right this second. Been there, done that.
But it happens every time there's a big launch. It comes back up.
Isn't the Z3 Sprint, Verizon, CDMA, and LTE everybody all on one chipset? I think Alex was teasing me about that.
Yeah, he likes.
Well, they do. They're at least doing every LTE band for the U.S. and Europe all in one. I don't know about CDMA.
Oh, one more email. I got one from Ray, who said, "Please go through the recording after the fact and edit out every time someone says "Okay, Google." My phone went off 3 times during the podcast.
I don't think I did.
My podcast stopped, and I had to cancel the search box to keep listening. It's payable in the car.
Why would you not want it to say "Okay, Google" or "Okay, Google now"
or "Okay, Moto X"?
Yes.
Because, I mean, I get that it could be annoying every time we say, "Okay, Google," but here's the thing. If you tell us that, we're just going to say it more. Especially Jerry, because he's mean like that.
You know. Speaking of that, I took all this time, your old Moto X, you could teach it a different phrase.
Yep.
If you were very, very persistent and sat there and ignored error warnings telling you it wasn't going to work, you could do it. I went through all that, and then that update to the voice services took it all away, and now I can only say the stock phrase.
So now you have to buy the new one to be able to do that. That's how they get you.
All right, I think that's it. I think we're done. I got to wrap it up because I got to go to soccer practice.
Go kick a ball, Phil.
Go kick a ball.
So if you want, you can email us at podcast@Android Central. You will note that we actually read a couple this week. Thank you.
At the very end.
You can find us all on Google+. Just search our names. Android Central, obviously. Jerry, Phil, Alex. We are all there. We are all also on Twitter and Instagram. And Jerry is almost getting close to playing with Twitter again. Twittering again.
He saw the value in it this week.
Oh, definitely. That was the best thing ever.
Something about a Viking helmet or something? I don't know.
It was something we can't say on a family-friendly podcast, but I just loved it.
Fair enough. We are also brought to you by shopandroid.com. Soon to be our own store. Once again, we need to rebrand that, but go buy things. We sell them. You should
including the Tilt View wireless charger.
Actually, yeah, including that.
I should buy one of them then for my tablet.
Thanks again this week to GoToAssist, Lynda.com, Backblaze, and Lynda.com for helping out with this week's show. That is awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank all you guys listening. Thank all you guys watching. And we will see you next week. Jerry, Alex. No, Alex isn't here. Jerry and Andrew. Say good night.
Good night.
Good night.